Since ancient times, humans and monsters have been in constant conflict. Today is no different. Our main character, Kai, is fighting to the death alongside his soldiers against the descendants of the Monkey King. Although they are small, their unity and excellent coordination allow them to fight back. He calls Manso over to help him take one down, but it's too strong and immediately separates them. Other monsters close in and surround them. When Kai is in danger, Ola, the eldest son of House Molokvagin, comes to his rescue. He is the commander of the army. With his extraordinary strength, everyone trusts him to make the pig-tailed monkeys retreat in fear. He also activates the power of the Earth God residing in his body. The tattoos are known as the divine emblem. It's proof that he is a bearer of the Aegis, blessed by the Earth God. After powering up, he easily takes down a few of them. Seeing this, the leader of the monkey pack steps forward to challenge him. It also bears a special power. This is a battle between the chosen ones. It can speak the human tongue. Wanting to end the battle here, the two powerhouses charge at each other. But with his agility, Ola successfully dodges. At the same time, he lands a slash straight through the alpha, felling it on the spot. This time, victory once again belongs to humanity. Everyone is overjoyed. They have successfully protected the village, while the monkeys are forced to flee back into the forest. After the battle, he and his big brother look back at what happened. Luckily, they get to live another day. The collection team then offers the Godstone from inside the monkeys to their leader. He drinks it all to increase his combat power. The others only get a single drop each as a reward. They perform a prayer ritual to the gods before consuming it. Everyone feels their strength has increased significantly, but it's still not enough to fight. The monkey pack alone, like Ola, eating the core of the Godstone, increases their spiritual energy, which in turn strengthens their bodies. Kai wants more, but Manso talks him down. We're just regular soldiers. This much is already a blessing. The remaining stones will be transported to the castle, for the rulers, like Lord Ola Basco. Basco says the majority of Godstones must be given to the bearers of the Aegis. With them, they can maintain their stability after each battle. Thanks to this, the human side can achieve victory against the giant monsters. This is the law of this world, which soldiers like them are forced to obey. They must get stronger without relying on Godstones. Only then can they survive to return like today. That evening, the warriors are treated to a feast. Thanks to everyone's bravery, the village is safe. Morlock, Ola's father, is very proud of them. Seeing this old guy go on and on every time, Manso is pretty bitter. The food is already scarce, and yet he makes others wait. Only the leader's family always has plenty of delicious food, yet Kai is happy with just these few dishes. Everyone can only wish for more to eat and tells themselves they will work harder. His senior's portion is larger, making him jealous. Basically, he's the captain, so he gets priority. He smiles and says if the kid were stronger, he would get a portion like his. He tells himself he must train to achieve that soon. However, when he swings his club, he has no strength because he's still very hungry. Suddenly, he mutters a few strange words, like, "I wish I had some rice cakes." His big brother has no idea what that is and asks. Kai says, "It just popped into my head. I'm not really sure." This isn't the first time. He occasionally remembers things. Although talking about food doesn't fill his stomach, it at least soothes his hunger. He points towards the graves of their fallen comrades. Those with families have their names carved on headstones, but for warriors with nothing, it's just a few dry twigs stuck on their graves. Since no one will mourn them when they die, Kai vows that he will live no matter what. Otherwise, he will be forgotten by the world. It would be as if they never even existed in the village. To survive, he needs to win battles. Kai thinks that if he possessed that kind of extraordinary power, he might be able to make a name for himself. Manso thinks he must be delusional. Inside, the siblings, Ola and Rose, are arguing about fighting. Rose also possesses the power and wants to support her brother, but he refuses. Their father doesn't want her to choose the same path as him. It's too dangerous, and she could die at any moment. Women in the Baron's family don't need to go into battle. Rose thinks it would have been better if she had been born a man. Down in the courtyard, the two are still training together. Manso thinks that if Kai only knows how to retreat, he'll never be able to win. He is quickly defeated and falls down, but surprisingly, at that moment, his mind recalls images from his past life, living on Earth with incredibly modern technology. When he comes to, he mutters a few words about magic. Hearing this, Manso apologizes, thinking he hit him so hard that he went crazy. He sits up and says he's fine. In his mind, he now knows he still has memories of his past life, from a place that people in this world know nothing about. Of course, Kai has never told anyone about this, because they probably wouldn't believe him anyway, so he keeps it to himself. In his old memories, he knows how to make delicious rice cakes. Unfortunately, in this life, that knowledge is of no use. If anything, magic might be useful. However, he knows that's just fiction. It doesn't exist in the modern world. If he could, he'd want to use magic in battle. It would be a huge help, and he could make a name for himself and get what he wants. Meanwhile, the village chief receives an urgent letter. It seems 7 orcs have appeared in the western forest. The battle will be near Banya village, and they must participate, even though it will exhaust the soldiers. According to their agreement, they need to get there quickly before things get worse. Yesterday it was monkeys, now it's orcs. It's a miserable life. A soldier's duty is to always be ready for any battle. They must protect their land at all costs, even with their lives. His father agrees with his son. However, the villagers here are all their descendants. Kai is still awake, thinking about how to create fire in his hand. His senior asks what he's mumbling about. Go to sleep, and get some rest. He says he's replaying scenes from a dream. Manso says that long ago, a traveler said it might not have been a dream. That person could also make fire erupt from his fingertip, just as he thought. He looks interested, but his brother isn't sure if it's true. It's just a story he was told. The next morning, Kai wakes up very early and goes to a corner to practice. If what his brother said is true, then maybe he can create magic too. It makes perfect sense, because up to now, he and the others have been gaining power by eating godstones. In this world, that proves that. This place was formed by a mysterious power they call the Earth God. Spiritual energy is something everyone is born with. It increases over time, and maybe when a certain amount of spiritual energy is gathered, one can release magic. Kai tries to focus his energy to create fire, but nothing happens. He thinks the problem is how to focus his spiritual energy into a single point. He feels it in his chest. He can feel its presence inside his own godstone instead of his heart. But no matter how hard he tries, it's all for nothing. Cut to the battle at Banya village, which is now broken out. The orcs are incredibly strong and have killed many people. People say dumb as an ox, but these orcs are extremely cunning. They hide in the forest and wait for people to arrive before attacking. They're not foolish enough to charge straight into the enemy's base. Kai's village has also arrived to provide support after discovering the monsters hanging people from trees. They launched an attack, but it wasn't very effective. Kai even gets his leg caught by a comrade's corpse and can't move. The monster closes in. Luckily, Manso takes it down before his little brother gets slashed. He gets chewed out and has to apologize for being so useless. To make matters worse, there's a problem with his leg. Just then, Ola joins the fight, slamming an orc's head into the ground. Seeing someone with special abilities, the orcs choose to retreat. He furiously chases after them. Meanwhile, the two brothers have run into another one. Kai tells him to leave him behind, but Manso refuses. They know they can't escape. The orc walks slowly, savoring the hunt. With no other choice, his big brother has to say goodbye. Kai understands and is ready to die, so he doesn't blame him. If it were him, he'd do the same thing. Manso promises to clean his grave every day to remember him. He thanks him, and then heads in another direction to help his big brother escape. In reality, he doesn't want to die at all. In his final moments, he continues to focus his spiritual energy, hoping to create magic. The large orc throws a dagger before attacking. Kai is being choked but refuses to die and continues to struggle. Surprisingly, his finger now creates a spark. He knows he can do it. With his determination, Kai shoves his hand straight into the monster's face, and a flame erupts, burning the orc's body so he can escape. The monster then collapses, and Kai now holds a flame in his hand, turning him into the fire fist. Seeing that it's still burning, he gets scared and tries to put out the fire but immediately collapses from energy depletion. It seems, casting this spell cost him all of his spiritual energy. He feels death approaching, but Kai still refuses to give up. He created the fire, so he can also extinguish it before it completely drains his life force. He imagines a hydroelectric dam and successfully shuts it down. However, the monster is still alive and drags him away. It seems its eyes have been blinded, so it's moving by feel. Knowing he's going to die anyway, Kai gets up and slashes it one more time before falling into a chasm. Luck continues to smile on him, as he isn't dead but is washed ashore. However, the spiritual energy in his body is gone, leaving him severely weakened. He looks over and sees the monster is dead. He manages to crawl over to take the core from inside it. This is the first time he gets to eat one without restraint. After absorbing all the nutrients from the Godstone, Kai's condition improves drastically. He goes to a corner to sit and gaze at the world around him. The wound on his shoulder is so deep that it won't stop bleeding. He thinks he can't survive for much longer. The most comforting thing right now is perhaps dying in a place with a beautiful view. He then passes out. Cut back to the village. Everyone is on high alert, afraid of an ambush in the night. Manso sits alone, sad because he was quite fond of his little brother. As for Kai, he is bathed in moonlight, until morning. He suddenly wakes up as if nothing happened, even though yesterday he thought he was a goner for sure. He checks his wound and sees it's miraculously healing and no longer hurts. He thinks it's absurd to recover overnight just from eating a godstone. He also finds a poneglyph-like stone slab, but he doesn't know what it is. The only feeling he gets is that it's incredibly familiar. It's as if he's seen it somewhere before. Curious, he decides to use fire magic to burn away the vines. Unexpectedly, it explodes with a loud bang, startling Kai and sending him flying. After seeing his reflection in the water, he sees that he has received a god's blessing. The divine emblem on his face is denser than anyone else's. But the important thing is, he never expected to be a bearer of the Aegis mark. After examining the slab, he doesn't understand any of it. He quickly finds his way back, not even thinking about whether he's the chosen one. As he's about to climb up, the mark suddenly activates, making him lose control. At first, he thought the rocks here were soft, but it was actually the power inside him. On top of that, he can hear someone's voice, urging him to leave quickly. Kai feels a bit scared and immediately runs up with all his might. In less than a minute, he escaped the cliff just by running and jumping. He is amazed to hold this new power in his hands. So this is the feeling he has always longed for. With enhanced physical strength, everything is so much easier. Sometimes it's even better than having magic. Kai wonders if this is really power from a god's protection, because he didn't do anything. The first thing he thinks of is that he'll be able to eat more now that he bears the Aegis mark. But suddenly, he feels a little worried about it, so he decides to keep the divine emblem a secret until he can figure out how he got it. Back at the village, the warriors are burying their comrades. Manso still hasn't found his little brother's body, and is feeling down. Just then, he sees him smiling and calling his name, which makes everyone rejoice. The war ends, and they return to their daily lives. But what confuses the guys is that ever since he got back, Kai hasn't shown any signs of fatigue, despite working several times harder than everyone else. They even have to stop him, or he'll plow the entire field, leaving no work for tomorrow. He checks his reflection in the water and sees the mark hasn't appeared. He's relieved. If people found out, they'd surely ask a lot of questions. The guys then talk about how strange their little brother has been. They ask why he's so strong now. He has to lie, saying, "I ate my fill of godstones during the battle at Banya village. There was a group of orcs killed in the forest. I was seriously injured, so I ate more than 10 of them at once. That's how I got this power." Hearing this, the captain isn't suspicious and says, "No wonder he's so strong now." He'd heard that some people became incredibly strong after eating a lot of godstones. Normally, no one is allowed to have that many, but it was a life or death battle, so he lets it slide. He even praises him. "Looks like you found your purpose, huh?" While they're talking, a pretty girl notices Kai. Elsa's friends ask if she likes someone, making her shyly walk away. Cut to Lady Rose. She is inspecting the offerings prepared for an upcoming event. Their land is poor, but they can still grow crops like this, all thanks to the Baron and the Earth God within him. He, her father, is also a bearer of the Aegis mark, standing to protect his territory. Their power makes the land fertile. Meanwhile, Kai goes off somewhere to practice using his fire. His spiritual energy isn't affected like the first time. There's no doubt about it. He really possesses fire magic. But he wonders if it comes from the protection of the gods. Just then, Rose walks by, startling him. He quickly hides the flame in his hand. He tries to slip away, but she's not stupid. She asks what he's doing here. If he doesn't tell the truth, she'll have him arrested and investigated. With no choice, he confesses that he can create fire, but it's all still very vague, as he doesn't really know how to activate it. He just happened to awaken this ability when he was on the verge of death. Rose, who knows more, says he might be someone with a special ability. There are people who use mysterious abilities that seem impossible. That's what they call members of special clans from the Midlands and a few monks. Hearing this, Kai is quite surprised, because besides him, there are others who can do it. And they call it a special ability, not magic. What Rose finds strange is that he's not tired at all. She has also heard the rumor about him eating a ton of godstones to get stronger. The reason he isn't tired is probably because he has a lot of spiritual energy from absorbing the stones. This means there are many ways to become stronger, and she has always wanted that. So she makes Kai train with her. Kai hasn't fought anyone since he got back, so he's surprised by his own ability after fighting on par with her, and Rose has activated her Aegis mark to make the fight more exciting. And since he doesn't know how strong he is yet, Kai doesn't dare use his full strength, because if he did, the divine emblem would activate and reveal all his secrets. Later, he looks at his reflection in the water again, thinking to himself that he can fight on par with someone who has the mark without even using his full strength. He also has to bring water for her to clean up. Looking at the pretty girl in front of him, he gets shy. He talks about how he thought all bearers of the Aegis mark were equally strong, but her and her brother's abilities are worlds apart. Rose admits she's still too weak to compare to her father and brother. This power changes, based on the strength of the god within the person, and of course, one must train regularly to not rely too much on the divine emblem. Then Kai says she doesn't need to train so hard, implying women shouldn't fight, which makes her angry. She believes that even as a woman, once you bear the Aegis mark, you have a responsibility to protect the land. There will be times when her strength is needed, so she trains hard to be like her brother and father, to become all-powerful. People like her need to win as many life or death battles as possible. Besides, there's another ability she has. At this time, since people are starting to arrive, Rose has to leave first. If her father found out she was training, she'd be dead. Kai is very curious about what she just said and wants to learn more. She says she'd love to tell him, but has no time. However, she'll soon be doing the monthly tomb cleaning and wants to invite him to come along. That way, she can answer his questions. Her earth god is worshipped in Ida village, so she'll arrange for him to go there with her. A few days later, he and his big brother are assigned to go as escorts. Ida village is the territory of the monkey pack, so they must be vigilant. Luckily, they haven't heard of any attacks recently. Some people ask Kai if the rumor is true that their team was specifically chosen by the lady to be her escort. It seems she's taken an interest in him. He's too embarrassed, but luckily his big brother speaks up for him, saying she doesn't even know who Kai is. However, many people still believe the rumor, and the whole group turns to glare at him for getting a pretty girl's attention. When they arrive, it's explained that this place once belonged to the Baron's family, but it was abandoned after numerous monster attacks. Luckily, one tombstone remains undestroyed, so someone comes to clean it every month. At the same time, they pay their respects. This place used to be a field, but after being abandoned for many years, it's now quite barren. The grace of the earth god has also diminished, and no longer reaches this land. That is the miracle that the bearers of the mark use to help crops grow. Rose then specifically asks Kai to follow and protect her. She takes him to a patch of flowers. Then she activates her spiritual energy and transfers it into the soil. Only those who bear the mark, connected to the earth god, can do this. This is her second ability. However, this place has been abandoned, and the earth god has also weakened, so it's not very effective. It's just enough to keep this flower garden growing. The power of the bearer of the divine emblem directly affects the land they live on, just like in their village. Because her father is very strong, the crops are always bountiful. A lord must possess this ability to help their people prosper. After checking the tomb below, the two of them go inside to clean. There's also a poneglyph-like slab here. The writing is identical to the one Kai found in the valley. This means that place was once the tomb of a god. Suddenly, he can understand the ancient language and translate it by touching it. Kai can read some parts, but others are hard to understand. It doesn't form a complete sentence, so he doesn't know its true meaning. Rose asks what he's mumbling about, but he doesn't dare to say. Outside, the monkeys have noticed the group's suspicious activity, so they are watching. Meanwhile, the girl has just begun to present offerings to her god. She hopes that in the future, when she is stronger, this place will thrive again and attract people to live here. Being a bearer of the Aegis mark comes with responsibility. Kai looks on with admiration as he hears this. After they come up, they get news that monsters have arrived. They immediately hide the tomb. Rose is urged by her subordinate to leave, but they end up surrounded. Seeing her flowers being trampled, she stands up to threaten them but then looks scared. Seeing this, Kai rushes in to help, taking down two of them by himself. In that moment, Rose accidentally sees the dense divine emblem on Kai's body, but it disappears a second later, making her think her eyes were playing tricks on her. After returning to report, Rose is scolded by her brother, because even though she activated her Aegis mark, she was still intimidated by the enemy. As expected, girls don't need to learn how to fight. Hearing that, she can't argue back. Her father is just glad she returned safely. He gives Ola a task. Go on patrol because an inspector is coming from the Central Plains. He accepts the order and goes to remind the soldiers about it. Rose apologizes to her father for being useless. As for the story of Kai, he is also looking forward to meeting that strong young man. For a new soldier to be able to defeat those monkeys like that is truly amazing. Over here, he's being teased by everyone, asking if he's the hero of the abandoned Ida village now. He pretends he was just being reckless, but the guys heard everything. It seems he's very close to Lady Rose. Watching them fool around, the women in the village also take notice. The captain then comes over to lend his little brother a hand, and according to the lady's assessment, only Kai has the potential to become a decent man. Hearing this, the girl next to them brightens up, as she has her eye on him. They remind Elsa, if you like him, go for it. If you don't, another girl will snatch him up. Just as she says that, Lady Rose appears and calls Kai over to talk. He thinks his Aegis mark has been exposed, but she actually wants to thank him for saving her life in the village of Ida. She even bows deeply to express her heartfelt gratitude. As she's about to mention the divine mark on Kai's face, Rose tells herself it can't be true. She recalls how when she faced the enemy, she couldn't do anything. She realizes that being strong isn't enough. You also need to have an iron will. So, starting tomorrow morning, she will come train with him every day. She will work harder than before. So she hopes Kai will agree. He's surprised to hear this, but feeling pressured, he has no choice but to agree. The guys outside watching Kai get an earful come up with all sorts of stories. Later, while he's working, Elsa brings him water to get acquainted. She's too shy and pretends that everyone told her to bring it to him. He happens to be thirsty, so he drinks it all and even says it tastes better than usual, which makes her very happy. She wanted to talk more, but someone came to call him, so the two agreed to see each other later. Watching her leave, Kai still doesn't get what's going on, but Manso is different. He guesses that the spring of youth has arrived for Kai. He denies it. Then he suddenly hears a bird call, just like the one from the valley. It's as if it's calling to him. At night, unable to stand it any longer, he decides to go out using his divine power. He leaps from inside the compound over the outer wall in a single bound. His speed has increased considerably. He also feels a sense of joy about returning to the valley. After arriving, he dives into the water without hesitation. The feeling of dying and being reborn in this place is truly joyful. Kai says out loud that he really likes this valley. He also sees the bird that called him here. It leads him to the stone slab. He tries to touch it but still can't translate the ancient language, just like the tombstone in the village of Ada. Knowing he's alive thanks to a god's blessing, Kai thinks he must show his sincerity and offer his sincere thanks. He diligently cleans the stone slab, bit by bit, until it's spotless. Not only that, he also buries his opponent. After all, it was thanks to that orc that he was able to awaken his power. After finishing his work, he runs up to explore. For some reason, Kai can now see perfectly clearly in the dark. This must also be part of the god's protection. The vegetation in this area is very lush, so there are many kinds of delicious fruit. He sees that this forest is rich with food. It would be a shame not to live here. Suddenly, he gets the idea to just build a house right here. First, he needs to chop some wood, but he only brought a short knife, which he can't use as an axe. He thinks using magic would be more effective, so he gives it a try. He turns the flame in his hand into a blade, but when he touches the tree, the entire trunk bursts into flames. He thinks this is a stupid idea, as he risks burning down the whole forest. So he switches to another method. Since he was able to create fire, Kai is very confident that he can do much more. Magic is formed from imagination. He thinks cutting something means destroying its molecules. Since he still hasn't fully recovered his past life knowledge, Kai wonders, what's a molecular bond? Putting that aside, he knows he needs to follow his instincts, which tell him he's not cutting the tree, but dismantling the bonds within it. He creates an invisible blade and pierces through. However, at that moment, the valley is invaded. For some reason, the orcs are here, searching for something. Back with Kai, he discovers a new race of people he's never seen before. Knowing this group wants to enter the valley, he subconsciously activates his divine mark and rushes to stop them. As he's about to attack, Kai regains his composure. The others are speaking a different language, which he doesn't understand. Not only that, they also threaten him with knives, but are stopped. The old man can speak Kai's language, and introduces himself. He is Orcs, leader of the dwarf clan. The old man is fluent in the human tongue because he has interacted with merchants before. They are master craftsmen, so their creations are always considered valuable goods. First, he must apologize to him for entering the forbidden area. They came here to invoke an ancient pact with the great god of the valley. Seeing them all kneel and bow, Kai doesn't understand. Forex explains that the god here has a human-like appearance. Since ancient times, the dwarves have always lived in peace and worshipped the earth gods. But recently, the orcs have been attacking constantly, putting the tribe at risk of extinction. So they had to flee here to ask for help. A weak race like them can't possibly fight the towering orcs. The old man keeps calling Kai the ancient god of judgment. Please save us from our current situation. He hopes he will hear the tribe's plea. Curious, Kai asks him to explain about the god of judgment. What does that mean? Forex explains that it is a being of great power who surpasses all creatures and protects all of creation. He shakes his head, not thinking of himself as such a great person. The one with the knife from earlier also tells the leader he doesn't believe he is a god. It is said that the incarnation of the god of judgment is a mighty warrior who severely punishes the unfaithful. This small human cannot possibly be the great figure of legend. Being called small annoys him, since he's still much bigger than them. However, the old man believes it to be true. When he was young, he incurred the god's wrath by entering the valley without permission. As a result, his eyes were damaged in that incident. Although he can no longer see the light of the sun, he gained a power that allows him to see many other things. This world is filled with the light of spiritual energy, and Kai radiates a very noble, blue light. So there can be no mistake. He is the incarnation of the valley's god. After receiving this power, he has become the arbiter. That is the absolute truth, not a fabrication. In addition, they also reveal they offered a sacrifice to the valley for permission to enter. It is his granddaughter, named Arui, who has dedicated her entire life to the valley. Hearing this, Kai doesn't agree with this method and immediately goes to check. Just then, the rope snaps, so he jumps down to check on her. He doesn't want anyone to die in this place, so he tries to do something. Seeing that she is seriously injured, he thinks about healing magic. He has healed himself before, which means he should be able to heal someone else. He focuses on restoring all the damaged parts, as well as the cells in her body. Although he's not sure what he's doing, he finally succeeds. Kai is surprised that magic can also heal. Up above, trouble has started. The orcs have arrived. Many people have been killed. Kai is furious with them for daring to set foot on his land. He approaches their leader, who threatens him back by activating his divine mark. A voice appears in Kai's head, telling him to kill them all, carve pain into their bodies and spread fear so that none will ever dare to come near here again. It seems the valley's god is furious, and so is Kai. The old man offers his meager strength to help, because he is also a bearer of the mark. The dwarves have sworn loyalty to the valley's god, so they will do their best. He activates his Aegis mark, making the orcs realize he is the master of this place. The leader still orders his subordinates to attack, but Kai takes them down in the next second. The old man also rushes in, kills one, and is praised for his agility. The dwarves have inherited some excellent fighting techniques. The rest is up to the god of judgment, Kai. He stands and sentences them to death for daring to invade and defile this valley. The leader is so scared that he speaks the human tongue, begging for forgiveness. He argues this isn't the god of judgment's business, but a matter between the orcs and dwarves. Kai doesn't care and says this is his business, because they entered the valley without permission. That alone is enough for a death sentence. At this moment, the power inside him radiates out, forming a blue light. Kai has become one with the valley's god. He says, "For the peace of the valley, I will kill you right now." An image of the god appears behind him, startling his opponent. He also bows and begs but only receives a shake of the head. Cornered, he tries to fight back, but with a wind blade, Kai had severed its arm, leaving everyone confused about what just happened. Right after that was the final judgment. A straight stab into its chest to rip out the godstone, proving his victory. He had spread terror among them all, and also came to understand many things. Mr. Pax was no longer mistaken, because this was the god of the valley, the one who used blue flames to burn his own eyes. This god had no mercy for trespassers, but also bestowed mercy upon those who were worthy. Kai is the great embodiment carrying the scales of life, the god of justice who has watched over the world since the age of the gods, and above all is the god of judgment. After taking the divine vein from the monster, he was reminded about absorbing it. It would bring immense power. This was the first time the young man had defeated a bearer of the Guardian's mark. The Godstone was obviously larger than those of other individuals. The dwarves seemed excited because Kai was about to take the protection from that boar. It seems that whoever consumes the divine vein of a guardian bearer will absorb the power of the earth god and inherit the protection as well. However, if he didn't want to, he could still consume it like other godstones. Mr. Pax advised him to take advantage of this to increase his own strength. That way, he would be strong enough to protect the valley. Hearing that, he also cut the godstone and shared a piece with the old man for his contribution. The old man was very grateful and also drank that energy to strengthen himself, but it seemed a bit too strong. Yet Kai took one gulp and drank it all. The next second, his body reacted. The soul of the earth god that blessed the boar also escaped, as it was not on the same level as the god in the valley. When a bearer of the Guardian's mark dies, the god's soul will return to its grave. More importantly, at this moment, he began to feel discomfort in his chest. It seems this is the effect of eating the divine vein of a mark bearer. Kai said he was fine. He just needed to return to the valley to rest. At the same time, he asked them to stay away from that place. While unconscious, he remembered images from his childhood when he lost his family and relatives to monsters. When he woke up, he was surprised to find old Borik's granddaughter lying beside him. He asked what she was doing here, and why she hadn't gone home. Arui was quite worried about her guardian god, which was him, so she covered him with a mat. She herself had already pledged to offer herself to the god in the valley, so she only asked Kai to listen to the plea of her people. From now on, she will always be here to serve him. That is her role. But the young man didn't want that. He advised her to go back to her people. She refused because her grandfather had already told her that if she did, disaster would befall everyone. Kai found it annoying and even considered taking her back himself, but she wouldn't listen. Since he had saved her life, she would serve her guardian god forever. After arguing for a while, the sound of a bird from above made Kai realize it was morning. He needed to return to the village, so he also advised Arui to go home. The dwarves were still waiting for him to allow them to live here. If they left now, they would surely die. They pledged to devote themselves to the god in the valley. Their homeland was being attacked by orcs. Although it's temporary, they still hope for a shelter in the valley where they can live. Seeing them all bowing like that, the god of judgment had no choice but to agree. However, he forbade them from setting foot down in the valley. As he was about to leave, the old man reminded the main character of a few things to avoid danger. After returning to the village, he hurried to the meeting point for a sparring match with Lady Rose. She also asked what he was doing that made him so late. He pretended, "Oh, I overslept," and then they began to practice. In another development, Baron Vajan had come to see Manso and to ask where Kai was. Somehow, they ended up having a sparring match later. Everyone was surprised that the Baron chose the main character as his training partner today. The reason was that the main character had bravely protected the lady before, so her father wanted to test his strength. The two brothers also watched intently. Kai didn't want this to happen. He was advised not to use dirty tricks, even in desperation. If he made the Baron angry, it wouldn't be fun. The young man was also highly regarded for being strong enough to push back a group of long-tailed monkeys. Of course, this was just a sparring match, so he wouldn't actually be killed. Luckily, that morning, he was reminded by Mr. Forex to hide his identity as a bearer of the Guardian's mark for a while because he had only recently inherited this power. So this was a weakness for other mark bearers to target. Before he could fully master the power, he shouldn't let others know. Kai knew he had to try to hold back so that the holy crest wouldn't appear. The battle began immediately. As expected, the Baron possessed immense power. The weapon he used was very heavy, but with his masterful technique, he made the main character's holy crest appear. Luckily, no one had noticed yet because they were all focused on Lord Vajan. It disappeared the next second, so he could continue fighting. Seeing that look in his eyes, the Baron was very pleased. He wanted to have a little more fun. Outmatched in size and strength, he was quickly disarmed. However, he hadn't given up, and rushed straight in to grab the Baron's leg, intending to tackle his opponent. The two brothers were astonished to see that this guy was strong enough to lift one of their father's legs. The Baron then kneed him, sending Kai flying. Ola seemed pleased to see that, because that was as far as he could go, not any stronger than himself. After the fight, Kai was panting, while the Lord, Vajan, smiled with satisfaction, saying he really liked the main character. Therefore, starting tomorrow, he would personally train the young man to become even stronger. He didn't like it, but it was an order, so he had to accept. He thought to himself, "What's wrong with this father and daughter, always making me fight?" Rose was happy too, because there was no one here strong enough to fight her father like he was. She thought to herself that she would have to be stricter tomorrow. His brothers then came to help, but they were still smiling because they saw the young man get beaten. Manso teased him, saying, "Don't worry, if you die, we'll give you a proper burial." Meanwhile, Elsa, who witnessed the whole thing, was very worried about Kai. It turns out she had known him since they were kids. No wonder she was always paying attention to him. A few days later, as night fell, the young man woke up again to go to the valley. He ran straight to his favorite valley. Lately, he had been trained so hard by that father and daughter that he had no time at all. Arriving at the stone slate, he greeted his god. What the heck? He also discovered a small, newly built house next to it. Going inside to check, he saw Arui cheerfully welcoming him. These past few days, she had built this house by herself and waited for him. He asked if the dwarves had entered without permission, and learned that they hadn't. Seeing the many wounds on her hands, he believed her, but he still had to send her away. But she wouldn't go. She was very clever and immediately took out food to lure him. For some reason, she was able to harvest many things here. Her cooking skills were impeccable. Just looking at it made his mouth water. My pride can take a hit for something this delicious, so I'll just have to accept it. Now, seeing the main character eat like this, Arui brought over a lobster. He mentioned that, since he was a child, he had never eaten this much. In the afternoon, after returning to the village to work, the young man was surprisingly given 3 times more food. The kind auntie saw how hard he'd been working lately and felt sorry for him. The brothers saw this and asked where the fairness was, only to be scolded like dogs. You do little work but demand to eat a lot, while Kai has practically plowed an entire field. It made sense, but the 3 brothers were still not satisfied. Then there was Manso on the side, teasing, "Youth has arrived." Elsa, who had been watching all this time, ended up scooping a huge amount of extra food for him. The brother thought she liked him, but the next second, she asked for it back. In the following period, whenever Kai was free, he would go to the valley to help Arui work. During the day, he would train with the lady, and at noon, he had to work in the fields. Everything went very smoothly. Kai also started to develop feelings for the dwarf girl. He felt it was a bit pitiful for her to live alone here. So whenever he was free, he would run over to visit. He was also happy to see her people starting to thrive again. The next day, they encountered a large boulder blocking the road that they couldn't push away. Luckily, Lord Vajan was passing by, so he came to help. With his strength alone, at first, people didn't believe he could lift it, but the next second, the large boulder was lifted into the air, making everyone admire him. It was also thanks to this power that the land became fertile. From now on, the crops will grow even better. It was well worth the effort. That night, feeling motivated, Kai began to learn how to help plants grow. However, he was unsuccessful. He thought he still had too much more to learn as a bearer of the Guardian's mark. A few days later, seeing Elsa go to the flower field, Kai went to ask her about it. Lately, they had become very close. His friend said the flower garden this year was more beautiful than in other years. Initially, these were all seeds they had brought from their old village. When their village was burned down, the people wanted to at least save the flowers, so they brought the seeds with them. Although the village is gone, there are more flowers than before, which is some comfort. Speaking of which, it reminded him that this friend was also born in his old village. Hearing that, Elsa also glared at him for daring to forget a fellow countryman. He made an excuse, saying, back then, when the village burned down, he was too young. How could he remember her face? Unlike the young man, Elsa had always been watching his actions, praising him for being so amazing to attract the attention of the Baron and the lady. Kai humbly said that compared to them, he still had much to learn. He had to become stronger. For those who no longer have family or relatives, they are forced to be stronger. The main character had said this when he was a child, so Elsa recounted it. Back then, their village was destroyed and Kai was crying alone. But after seeing a monkey attack, he wasn't scared and rushed in to buy time. Thanks to that, she was able to survive until today. She thought everyone would be killed back then. But luckily, Lord Vajan stepped in to save them. Recalling this, Kai finally remembered. It's true that he had met him before. He even boldly declared that he would definitely become stronger. He recounted how desperate he was back then, while everyone was waiting for death to come to them. He couldn't do anything at all. After saying that, he chuckled, not understanding why he had forgotten that memory. Elsa still remembered very clearly how Kai had protected everyone, saying he hadn't changed at all. Scene changed to the forest. A stronger pack of orcs had arrived to wipe out the long-tailed monkeys. The leader didn't even bother to activate his guardian's mark, but was still strong enough to defeat the other leader in a single blow. The monkey with the mark was cut down, and the next target of this group is the valley where the dwarves have settled. Kai still often comes here. Today, Arui made a new dish, so she brought it out to show off. A few days later, the main character was assigned to clean the food storage. Kai wondered if he could make rice cakes to eat with these things. Just then, Elsa passed by and heard him, so she curiously asked what rice cakes were. As they sounded strange, the main character didn't know how to explain. Even though he had never tried them in this life, he bet they were delicious. His older brother then came in and urged him to move some of the food supplies to the cart. The other guys looked envious while working, but that the main character had a girl come to talk to him. It turns out an inspector was on his way, so they had to hide some of it to avoid being taxed. Ola wondered if this was really necessary. The 5 grains were indeed precious, but if they served people a little more, it wouldn't hurt. Lord Vajan explained that the village's reserves were low this year. That's why they needed to hide it to ensure the people's livelihood. His son thought that eating a little less wouldn't kill anyone. If he could, he wanted to give gifts to neighboring regions to build influence with them. His father didn't think that currying favor more than necessary would benefit his own people. Some villagers could starve because of this, and he didn't want that. The main character's group had now hidden the food supplies in the cellar. He was told by Manso about the inspector who was coming soon. He was also a bearer of the Guardian's mark. It was said that their holy crest was of a higher grade than the barons. After arranging everything, the whole village came out to welcome the inspector. He was Gando, a fat, lecherous, and unpleasant guy. On the way here, this group was attacked by demi-humans but was repelled by their men. Seeing that Rose was so beautiful, the inspector went over to talk to her. She acted tough to be worthy of the Guardian's mark. He also thought that a woman like her should just stay at home and have children, not fight. Ola was also reminded about chasing away the demi-humans. Secondly, he noticed the person walking behind everyone. He had nothing to do with the inspection team, but it seems he had fought against the monsters. This person introduced himself as Nada, sent from the Maz Monastery. Later, the inspection team went into the warehouse to check the inventory. After seeing that there wasn't much this year, he sneered that the Lord's training would affect productivity. He thought the Lord probably wasn't training diligently. He also threatened that there was a remote village nearby that was plotting to hide its harvest amount. He thought that surely the Baron here wouldn't do such a thing, right? Lord Vajan bowed and explained that the weather had been very bad recently, which had affected the harvest. Hearing that, the old fox used this reason to ask to stay. Although the father and his two sons didn't like it, they had to agree. Rose looked annoyed that her family would have to cater to that old man. Her father was gentler, explaining that Inspector Gando is the king's representative. Wherever he goes, he must be welcomed. Their village belongs to the United Kingdom, so they must not be disrespectful in front of him. Outside, Kai went to meet the monk to talk. He was quite grateful to him for praying for those who had sacrificed themselves. Surprisingly, the monk had also heard about him, the one who ate many godstones to become stronger. He even said they were very similar. It turns out that at the monastery, this man also ate a lot of godstones. He considered it part of his training and a shortcut to gaining power. Kai was very interested to hear that, and asked how strong he was compared to other mark-bearers. Nada activated his holy crest and revealed that he wasn't actually protected by any god. He just tried to train and gain this power by consuming many godstones. Inside, the inspector was being served with dozens of delicious dishes. However, the guy was not satisfied, complaining that this place was full of rustic stuff. While the villagers couldn't even dream of touching it, Gando continued to demand more things. The warriors in the village, whose rations had been cut, were also furious with this inspector. Because he was staying here, they had to act convincingly so as not to reveal the hidden food supplies. In another development, the monk was discussing with the Baron about the massive orcs hiding deep in the remote region. The concern was that their numbers were much larger than normal groups. Ola wondered if a full-scale invasion of human lands was coming soon. Nada wasn't sure, but with numbers like that, it was extremely dangerous. Mars Monastery believed in the theory that they had some purpose for gathering in such large numbers, and this direction was their route of movement. In the coming days, he needed to pursue them to find out the purpose of those monsters. But he was not familiar with the terrain here, so he pleaded for help from the Baron. Hearing that, the Lord Vajan also helped the monk up, saying there was no need to bow like that. Of course, he would agree to help and send specialized people to escort him. That night, Kai visited Arui again. He also told her he was quite busy, so he wouldn't be able to come for a while. She was a bit sad because she was very fond of the main character, afraid that he would abandon her here and not return to the valley anymore. He comforted her, saying not to worry because a mark-bearer has a responsibility to their land, so he would definitely protect this valley forever. After going up, the main character met old Boric to ask for advice because he was about to follow the orcs. According to his guess, their target might be the boars that were defeated here before. This was quite serious, but Kai confidently said, "I'm mentally prepared for it." The next morning, the lady was sent to follow the monk to learn. Usually, this would be the job of the eldest son, Ola, but he was currently pursuing the monkeys that attacked the inspector. Besides, with Kai going along, the Baron was quite at ease. At that moment, his girlfriend came to give him food. Although she didn't know how to make rice cakes, Elsa still spent time researching how to make them. Receiving the gift, the main character became quiet. He suddenly remembered his mother, saying that for many years, his memory of her had always been vague. Before he could finish, his brother Manso called him to go, so he also thanked the kind girl, and so, their group followed the monk's clues. Lady Rose also wanted to ask the main character what he thought about girls fighting, but she was a bit shy and didn't. Later, they discovered that there had recently been a conflict between the monkeys and the boars. Corpses were scattered everywhere, which confused Rose. Nada thought the orc pack he was chasing caused this. The fact that there were more monkey corpses than boar corpses meant that the power difference was very large. The leader of the orcs is an extremely powerful individual. More importantly, they still didn't know their true objective. The monk then told the other two about a prophecy that a powerful, unignorable god would appear in this remote land. He was chasing the orcs to locate that tomb because it was said that any species that possessed that god would gain immense power. The monastery must ensure that this power does not fall into the hands of monsters. As for information about the god residing in this land, it was unclear. The prophecy only said, an untamable wild spirit has awakened. Its power reaches to the heavens, but in essence, it is both light and darkness. This power should be feared and respected. Kai suddenly realized that the prophecy might be referring to him, the one who received the blessing from the god in the valley. Continuing to move, they saw a heavily devastated village. Rose couldn't ignore it and went there to check the situation, to save as many as she could, but it seemed everyone was already dead. The Yuzels tribe is a peaceful species and not hostile to humans. Their horns had been cut off for decoration. There were also orc axes. Mr. Nada asked to split up to investigate the earth god here. Kai was sent by his brother to assist, and so they split up to search for the injured. Entering the main hall, the monk used fire to light it up. What was surprising was that Kai had no reaction, which made the monk realize he already knew about this ability. He tried to change the subject by talking about the tombstone of the earth god in this village. Meanwhile, Rose found a trail of blood leading to a house. She thought there was someone inside, but it turned out to be an orc. At Kai's location, he was trying to translate the ancient language. He also found a dead warrior. Bringing everyone outside, they saw it was only a boar, which proved the village was not attacked by the main force. Judging by the clothes of the person just brought out, she was probably the lord of the village. It's very likely she was a mark bearer and stood up to fight. This gave Rose more confidence that she could also do what other bearers of the Holy Crest do. The theory is that this girl fought against 3 powerful orcs at the same time by herself. Because she wanted everyone to escape, she chose to use her body as a shield to buy time. No wonder the number of dead villagers was so small. Despite the difference in strength, that girl was still very strong. What helped her overcome fear was her love for her people. That's what the monk thought. Kai also had an epiphany about the duty of a bearer of the Guardian's mark. No matter how strong the enemy is, the individual with the mark must not retreat. After burying the victims, they asked about the information on the tombstone. Mr. Nada said it had nothing to do with the god he was searching for. However, he learned one thing. The main force of the boars was elsewhere, based on the battle with the monkeys earlier, and this village. They calculated that the remaining orcs were heading towards the forest, and perhaps the tomb of the god he was looking for was there. Suddenly, Kai realized that direction was the valley, and the dwarves were in danger, so he asked to go scout alone, being very confident in his speed. Hearing that, the monk agreed to let him go. As for the group of dwarves, they also received news that the orcs were about to head straight for the valley, just as predicted. Hearing this, the old man wanted to go scout himself, to grasp the situation in time. In another development, the people in the village at that time had noticed strange movements from the monkeys. Ola approached and also discovered that the monsters were very numerous. They were preparing everything as if they wanted to start a war. To deal with this number, they would need at least over 100 men. However, their numbers were too small at the moment, so the uncle suggested retreating. Ola seemed like he still wanted to fight, but seeing everyone asking to return, he followed. Recently, the situation has become much more dangerous. The orcs and monkeys were constantly making strange moves. Lady Rose's escort group could only wait for Kai to return with news. Only when they knew exactly where the boars were going would they dare to act. The lady was getting too impatient waiting like this. She thought she should have gone with him. It wasn't too dark yet, so she wanted to chase after him right now. The monk Nada advised Rose to trust in that young man. He dared to assure her that Kai could return safely, so she shouldn't worry. To reassure her, he also went to a high place and used his monk's ability to find the main character. His clairvoyance could move within a certain range, so with luck, he might discover important information. As for Kai, he was rushing back to the valley. Seeing many footprints here, he guessed their numbers were very large. Suddenly, from the bushes, the dwarves rushed out to attack, mistaking the young man for an enemy. It seems Mr. Pocket had led these people to stop the orcs' advance. After explaining the situation to the main character, they began to chase the monsters. He said that he had told them before to let him handle things in the valley, but Pocket said, "We also have a reason to protect that place. Currently, the villagers are building houses and settling here. Of course, they have to try to protect it. As Mr. Perrick said, they have devoted themselves to the god of the valley, so they hope to help Kai, even if just a little. In turn, that is also protecting themselves." Nearby, the orcs were cutting down many trees to clear a path. With these numbers, a direct fight would surely be very dangerous. Kai, on the other hand, wanted a quick battle, not letting them enter the valley. Just as he finished his sentence, the lead boar spotted them. At the same time, the fat inspector was still devouring everything, but his mouth was always complaining that the food was disgusting. Elsa saw this and bent down to clean up. Unexpectedly, this lecherous old man noticed her beautiful face. He was about to ask her to pour him wine to grope her, when the cook brought more food and also poured wine for the old man, helping her granddaughter. Outside, Elsa bowed her head to thank Miss Adelia. The woman saw her looking sad and encouraged her. "Don't make that face, or when Kai comes back and sees it, he'll be disappointed." Just then, Ola returned and announced that a war was about to begin. Back to the main character, who was now toying with the boars. The normal ones couldn't touch him. With the support of the dwarven warriors, Kai was much more confident. The remaining ones, seeing this scene, started to get scared. The leader saw this and had to come out to fight the main character. It was 100 times bigger and stronger than the others. On top of that, it also possessed a holy crest. Based on that pattern, Mr. Pocky realized this could be one of the Rick Daros. It is known that in these 6 lands, There are 6 ferocious orcs who possess incredibly powerful earth gods. Their goal is to make the northern orcs invincible, so they are called the Rick Daros. Hearing that, the main character decided to go all out, telling the others to back off and not interfere in the fight. The monk's clairvoyance also happened to witness this scene and realized that the main character was the one who possessed the god he was looking for. The opponent didn't rush to attack, talking about the predecessor, who inherited the power of the god of the valley and died. He himself hadn't heard any news about that person for a while, and he is the next one to inherit the will of the god of the valley. He had to thank the previous boars for trying to chase the dwarves. Thanks to that, he was able to find his way here. Just as he predicted, the remnants of that day's boar pack had reported this to the new enemy. The voice inside the main character continued to echo, demanding to kill them all. He agreed and rushed in to attack. The opponent possessed superior strength. Kai was more focused on speed, so he easily dodged. The young man weaved around to the back and stabbed, but unfortunately, this guy's body was incredibly tough. It caused the spear to break in half. Seeing this, the main character continued by kicking the spearhead deeper into its body, but this boar's ability was completely different. Its wound recovery speed was incredibly fast, healing in just a few seconds. Kai was also caught alive and couldn't do anything. Mr. Porrex had never seen a holy crestbearer with such a fast recovery speed. Their only hope now was that the guy wasn't immortal. The opponent felt disappointed that this was the choice of the god of the valley. Thinking he had declined a lot, he said he would take everything that belonged to the main character and also invade the valley. Kai thought of Arui and the children up there. He didn't want to lose anything. He immediately activated his magic, and the flames erupted, burning the boar's arm. This surprised the onlookers. The monk also understood why. He didn't show any surprise when he saw his flame earlier. Magic is indeed very effective. However, it still has many limitations, especially since the opponent was fully aware of this ability, so he blocked the next attack, not letting him cause damage. Kai was blown away, also shocked that the guy could resist fire. It seems the soul of the earth god that this guy carries within him protected him. For familiar gods, and the natural laws of this world, it's even simpler. Just by using an indomitable will, one can protect and recover from wounds. He was in a difficult situation, as all his tricks were ineffective. At the village, Elsa and everyone were rushing to harvest. She was very worried about the one she loves, hoping Kai wouldn't run into any problems. A big battle seems to be about to start, and there's no telling what will happen. The main character was now completely helpless against the enemy's defense. The rice ball Elsa made was also knocked away. Seeing Kai exhausted, the boar didn't rush to kill him but came to trample on him. Looking at the food his friend made, the main character suddenly remembered he still had a skill he hadn't used. He picked up the rice balls and pretended he had no will to fight. In his mind, he thought he needed to overcome the laws of nature to the point that the earth god inside that guy couldn't protect him. He wondered if the gods in this world knew about atoms and molecules. At the same time, he activated the wind blade on his hand. The boar confidently declared it would take the power of the god of the valley. The moment it swung its axe down, its arm was suddenly severed. To everyone's astonishment, in pain, the guy furiously charged in with his remaining arm, only to be cut in half by Kai's blade that surpassed all laws of nature. Witnessing this scene, the monk felt relieved and retracted his clairvoyance. He also didn't expect the main character to use a type of divine power that had never appeared before. Below, people felt it was about to rain and were quite worried. Rose then suddenly collapsed, making everyone worried. After winning, the main character directly took the other guy's godstone and drank it all. The holy crest then exploded, radiating immense power. He forced the earth god to surrender its power. The boars, having lost their leader, were terrified and fled. Kai then also fell into a coma, worrying the old man and the dwarves. After a while, Kai woke up. He asked what happened, and they said they were about to ask him the same question. After eating the godstone, he suddenly collapsed unconscious. Speaking of the opponent defeated by the main character, that boar definitely possessed a powerful earth god, and after Kai took the godstone, its connection was severed. The phenomenon of light enveloping him was likely the cry of the absorbed god. After cleaning himself up, he asked if, during the fight, they felt an uncomfortable gaze watching them. The friend also had that feeling. However, he ignored it, because the opponent had no hostile intent. After finishing, the dwarves would go back to the valley, and Kai would return to the others. From fighting so much, the young man's stomach was rumbling. Luckily, he still had the rice cakes Elsa made, so he took them out to eat. After finishing his meal, the main character returned and received news that Lady Rose had fallen into a coma. After seeing the wound on his leg, he also asked the monk. Neda had already figured out what it was. He wanted to know what Kai had learned from the orc army. He pretended, saying that after approaching the boar army, they had already been defeated by someone else. The corpse of the armored one was still there. It was likely the leader. That's probably why the others were scared and scattered. In the current situation, they had to take the lady back for treatment immediately. That was the top priority right now. So Neda didn't ask anything more, even though he knew everything. Along the way, he even reminded the young man that he had blood on him. And after returning to the village, a scene of devastation unexpectedly appeared. It seems this place had also just received an attack from the monkeys. To be sure, Kai went to scout the situation inside first. Many people had lost their lives in the rebellion from the monsters. The main character ran to ask Uncle Basco what had happened and learned that the whole village had been ambushed by a huge number of monkeys. Luckily, their side had the Baron, so the situation was saved. But as the main character could see, the damage was immense. The monkeys were very good at throwing rocks, so now all the villagers had to evacuate inside the castle. The main character also rushed to find his friend. He called Elsa's name and got a reply, which made him overjoyed. Luckily, she wasn't injured. The little girl was also very worried for Kai. Later, Baron Vajan, seeing his daughter in a coma wasn't much of a surprise. It turns out Ola had also encountered a similar situation. The monk said this symptom was caused by the monkeys. After checking Ola's condition, it was just as bad. After scouting, it was also discovered that the number of monkeys in the horde had increased, and it seems like they are preparing to attack again. Kai sat in the village with a gloomy face, not expecting the damage to be this great. Elsa said she evacuated here just in time with her mother and sister. Although scared, when she remembered Kai's face, she felt safe. Kai then also said thanks. Because of the food the girl made for him, he was able to win. Before they could talk, Manso came with a message that the Baron wanted to see him. Inside, the young man still concealed the fact that he had defeated all the orcs. Now, the only remaining threat was the monkey horde. To change the situation, they must purify the curse to help the two with the guardian marks, said the monk Nada. That is the result of a curse placed on the tombstones of the gods. They command a very cunning monkey horde. This was done to neutralize Feda's strongest warriors. Not only that, they will continue to attack soon. Therefore, before that happens, the Baron wants to ask Kai and the monk to go break the curse for Ola. Because he trusted in Kai's strength, Nada had no objections. The location is an abandoned village. He and Rose had been there before to clean up. The tomb of the god Ola worships is also not far from there. The village's survival depends on this mission, so the Baron is counting entirely on Kai. From now on, it will be a race against time. As the young man went downstairs, he heard the inspector carousing and wondered if this guy also had a guardian mark. He wondered if he could be of any help. The monk hoped so too, but it was very unlikely to happen. The two of them agreed to meet at the north gate to prepare their gear. Taking the opportunity, Kai ran to find his friend and praised her delicious rice cakes. He really wanted to eat more, but now he had to go on a mission. He reminded her to be careful and that he would be back soon. He also promised to take her to a special place when everything was over. The two of them held hands for a moment before having to part. After arriving at the meeting point, he saw the bag of tools and knew it contained the tools to break the curse. His friend asked the young man who he had just met, but he kept it a secret. To Nada, beyond this gate was the secular life he had left behind. Previously, he was the son of a poor nobleman. Although he tried to study diligently to inherit his family's god, in the end, he received nothing because he no longer belonged there. So, Nada went to the monastery to train. Every day, seeing that life full of love, they had to try even harder to protect it. First, they arrived at the village where the earth god of Lord Ola is worshipped. He is a skilled warrior, so he needs to recover as soon as possible. But according to observations, there were a few monkey soldiers on guard. To get a clearer view, his friend activated the clairvoyance eye. This familiar feeling made Kai realize something. This is a secret art he learned at the monastery. It's very useful for seeing everything, no matter how far the distance. After confirming there were only 5 monkeys, they took action. After approaching, Kai rushed in to fight and easily took down 3 of them. As he was about to make short work of the rest, the monk had already finished them off. At the same time, he also noticed the dense divine crest on Kai's face. He had accidentally activated it without even knowing. The other person then had to bow and reintroduce himself. I am Nada, a seeker of truth, sent by the monastery to find the truth about the gods. He hoped Kai would use the power of the wild god within his body, for the benefit of the unified kingdom of humanity. He dared not accept and urged Nada to quickly break the curse for the young lord, Ola, before the monkey horde arrived. While cleaning with holy water, he said, the unified kingdom needs a new and powerful god like him, Kai realized. He brought him here to talk about this privately. Nada also stated frankly that this kingdom is weakening with each passing year. Lord Gando is a prime example of that. Although he possesses a divine crest, he indulges himself in the luxury bestowed by the king. As a result, the power of the gods supporting the king has weakened severely. If prosperity returned to its former state, an army would be immediately sent here to deal with the monkey horde, unlike now where the whole village has to fend for itself. The number of tragedies is increasing, which is why a new, powerful god is needed to change the situation. After pulling out all the stakes around the tombstone, Nada poured Baron Vajan's blood on it. The god here serves the god in their village, so doing this will connect with Ola. The exorcism ritual was considered complete, so they moved on to the remaining location. Outside, the monk thought the monkeys were almost desperate, which is why they resorted to this method to take their village. Placing a curse on the tombstone would cause the entire land to lose its life. They would also be affected, but they had no other choice, so they went this far. According to the monastery's research, the monkey nation is facing a great disaster. His invasion of their village is to find a new home for their entire tribe. Even the orc horde is in a similar situation. It's said they are threatened by some creature from the north. To defeat that creature, a new, greater power is needed. No wonder they sent a powerful individual to the valley to seek power. The monk explained everything and asked Kai if he was willing to lend the god's power to the kingdom to save millions of lives. Before he could agree, the divine crest suddenly appeared with the words, "Kill him." Kai pretended there was too much information and he needed more time to think. In the village, Ola had begun to recover. However, he couldn't wake up immediately. At night, Kai and the monk approached the tombstone that Lady Rose worships. They successfully broke the curse for her. Kai went up and thought to himself, the power of the valley god is so extraordinary that he doesn't know how to use it. Thinking about how he could save many people, he pondered. The confusing thing was why the god inside him got angry and wanted to kill Nada. He came out and said if he let his god join the kingdom's mausoleum, he would receive more favor from the god king. Then he could easily save the village and his important people, he asked. What about the dwarves? Because he also wanted to protect them. The monk knew those beings were revered and asked the young man to give them up. The kingdom's mausoleum cannot accept those who worship lowly demi-humans. Hearing that, Kai disagreed with this kind of racial discrimination. He bowed his head again and asked Kai to offer all his power to the unified kingdom. He refused outright because those with the guardian mark have a responsibility to protect the residents of their land. He would not serve the kingdom if it meant abandoning the innocent people who admired him. The two then became tense. Nada pretended to give up to make Kai lower his guard. He then took out a weapon and stabbed him, leaving him completely shocked. Kai collapsed after the surprise attack. Nada said this type of knife is called a god-slaying weapon, passed down in the monastery. It penetrates the defenses of a guardian mark-bearer and suppresses his power. He asked for the reason, and he said that his use of the god's great power for his own land was both arrogant and dangerous. That power must be controlled by adding it to the kingdom's mausoleum. The monk guessed he couldn't understand the power within him and even seemed envious that the miraculous light would never belong to him, even though he had tried so hard. Kai tried to activate his guardian mark to escape, but it was hopeless. He wanted to take this opportunity to seize the godstone inside him. The desire for divine power rose and corrupted the monk. The pain would only last for a moment, so he wanted Kai to endure it a little longer, and to rest assured and pass on, because his achievements would be passed down in the unified kingdom forever. As he was about to stab him straight in the heart to dig it out, the main character dodged. He struggled to land a kick, but his divine power was now gushing out uncontrollably. In another development, at the village, everyone was trying to repair the fortress. Reinforcements wouldn't be able to come, so if they failed, they would all go to heaven together. The Baron also stood up to encourage the warriors' fighting spirit. He himself would do everything to stop the horde of monsters here. Even if they were short on troops, they would still fight to the very last moment. They would protect the village with their own hands until they could no longer hold their weapons. Inside, the injured were all being carefully treated. Elsa's mother was one of them. Luckily, her life was not in danger. The two sisters were told that if the fighting started, they must run to a safe place immediately. Back where our main character was, he was being told that his death would be useful and save many people. He didn't deny it, but he still needed to protect the valley and everyone there. He resolved to pull out the knife to fight back, saying, "You wouldn't understand, because I was given the power of a god to protect this land." As the two were about to fight, a third force appeared. At the same time, their village was under a full-scale attack. Everyone tried to use their shields to block the large stones thrown by the monkeys. This was a battle to the death where only one of the two sides could survive. The Baron also went into battle to protect his people. He wanted to show the monkeys the strength of their village. The leader on the other side heard this and continued to order fireballs to be thrown. The new enemy that appeared where the main character was extremely strong, enough to fight on par with Nada. Moreover, this group didn't just have one with a mark. All of them possessed a divine crest, making the battle tense. They spoke the human language, calling them the ones who broke the curse. No one can survive and return. The two of them were very surprised to learn they were the ones who had cursed Lady Rose and Ola. So it turns out the enemy was strong enough to have so many with guardian marks. The wound on Kai's body gradually healed. He swore he would make them pay for what they had done. After learning the young man was also a chosen one of them directly rushed in to attack, but the main character dodged it. The other two combined their strength and successfully knocked him far away. The wound on his back was still throbbing with pain, reducing Kai's mobility. When Nada approached, it used a finishing move with a wind blade to intimidate him. The monkeys outside knew the main character possessed strange moves, so they were on guard. They were like birds in a cage, so there was no need to rush the attack. The monk didn't want the divine power he had found to be taken away, so he lent a hand. Pushed into a corner, Nada activated his mark to counterattack. However, that pathetic power couldn't do anything to the monkey. Seeing the danger, Kai rushed in to help, even though he had been stabbed by the man earlier. Seeing this image, for a moment, Nada was on his side again. He used fire to drive away the monkeys. Thanks to a large explosion, the two managed to escape elsewhere. The monk also asked Kai what he was thinking, saving someone who had tried to kill him. He said he didn't know either. This body moved on its own. Hearing that, he also guessed why the valley god had given him such great power. Outside, the monkeys were still hunting them everywhere. If they faced three with divine marks alone, they would surely die. The monk requested cooperation. Knowing he was at a disadvantage, Kai agreed. Nada seemed to have given up on taking the godstone. He told him if he wanted to live, he should follow his instructions. After discussing the plan, the two agreed to settle things with each other after everything was over. Nada didn't want to die right now. He wanted to see how far Kai's abilities would develop. Just like that, they split up to trick the monkeys. Kai was responsible for luring them. The enemy was very cunning and split up in different directions to make things difficult. Not only that, they also knew how to use words to provoke. Nada, on the side, used his clairvoyance eye to support Kai. Following the instructions, Kai successfully countered one that was trying to sneak attack him. Completely surprised, the other two also had to hide, wondering why he could predict that move. From high above, observing with the monk's eyes, he saw everything and continued to give instructions. Thanks to that, when another one rushed from the right, he was prepared and successfully lopped off its head. The main character's invisible windblade was an advantage. Coupled with prompts from someone experienced, they formed a formidable duo for any opponent. Very quickly, he defeated the second one, so Nada also came out. He didn't expect the power of the god in the main character to be so great. The remaining one, furious, no longer targeted him but stabbed at the monk. He successfully blocked it. Unfortunately, this one was very strong. The staff couldn't pierce through. On the contrary, Nada was the one who took the fatal damage. Seeing that, Kai rushed to help, successfully cutting it in half. He was praised for doing a good job. The moment the three monkeys died was also when Ola woke up. He had no memory of what happened to him. Outside, loud explosions were constantly heard. Knowing it was the monkeys, he also wanted to join the fight but was advised to rest a little longer. Ola refused and requested clothes and a sword to teach those monkeys the power of House Moloch. Back with him, he tried to save Nada by letting him absorb the godstones of the three black monkeys, replacing the heavily damaged stone in his body. It was beyond saving. His vision was also fading, and his mind was becoming hazy, so it was highly likely his journey would end here. Hearing that, the young man tried to use a healing spell. Seeing this, Nada was shocked and asked where he learned it. The important thing was the wound didn't heal at all. Nada was quite happy to witness another miracle from Kai. He thought the Valley God had granted him a power that was beyond human standards and reach. Thanks to that, Kai could use it to control fate. In his final moments, Nada admitted his foolishness. At least he got to witness the power he had always wanted to see from him. He also wished Kai could find peace for himself in the future. After speaking, the monk closed his eyes and passed away, making Kai a little sad. Along with that sadness, a heavy rain poured down on the village. Rose finally woke up. Knowing a big battle was happening, the girl also tried to help her father and brother do something. A message from the Baron was also passed to her, which was that if necessary, she should flee the village and find a way to survive. The fact that he said those words meant he still didn't know what the outcome of this battle would be. The Baron didn't want Rose to fight. This made the girl quite sad because, in the end, she still wasn't acknowledged. After all, she was just a woman. Outside, seeing many seriously injured people, the lady allowed everyone to freely use her father's room to rest. The Moloch family would fulfill its duty of repelling the demi-humans, so rest assured. A few soldiers went to the fat guy's room but didn't see him. They thought he would stand up and help fight, but there was no way that would happen. Gando and his subordinate wanted to escape from this place, because they thought this place wouldn't hold out much longer. Up above, Elsa braved the danger to bring food and drink to the warriors. Although it wasn't anything delicious, they were extremely grateful. After coming down, she saw the inspector trying to open the back door. They started to worry. He wanted to return to the capital immediately. A soldier went down to stop him, because this gate is very important and must not be opened. As soon as he finished speaking, the other guy directly stabbed him and took Elsa hostage to force everyone back. When asked why he did it, the guy said he didn't care about the affairs of a remote village, even if they were all wiped out. Just like that, he cut the rope, causing the gate to open, creating an opportunity for the enemy to enter. Manso was furious that the damned frog had opened the gate, and even took one of our people. The situation became extremely dire as the village's defensive advantage was gone. The monkey horde, having gained the advantage, immediately flooded into the village. The Feta warriors also tried to raise their spirits and fight to the death. The Baron was also present, protecting his people. With his abilities, without even activating his mark, was enough to take down a few. Baron Vajan ordered some people to provide support from behind, while he would handle the front. This defensive line must be held. Otherwise, the ordinary citizens would be in danger. After seeing the divine crest on the large man, some monkeys became scared and didn't dare to act recklessly anymore. Kai was outside, running at full speed back to the village. He knew that with the current forces, if he didn't hurry, everyone would die. The current situation was very tense. Feta's strategist determined that letting the Baron fight at the main gate was a bad idea. The enemy was trying to hunt the godstone inside him. At the same time, the inspector's carriage had traveled a great distance. He believed that the village had only one fate, to be destroyed. Elsa tried to struggle but failed. Gando said it was thanks to him that the girl was able to escape death. As he was about to touch her precious body, he got kicked. Baron Vajan, after defeating countless enemies, received help from Manso's group. They had painted red marks on their faces, pretending they also possessed divine crests. The monkey horde was quite intimidated seeing this. They didn't expect so many people here to possess the mark. Taking advantage of the enemy's anxiety, everyone charged forward at once. The remaining people went to stop the monkeys outside and simultaneously closed the gate. Unfortunately, the monsters kept throwing stones to break down the gate. The situation was getting out of control, so the strategist asked the Baron to leave. As long as he was alive, this land would have a chance to be reborn. Everyone understood that, so they wanted to shoulder everything here. Just then, Kai returned in time, but before him were hordes of monsters. Armed, the two sides spotted each other and immediately rushed into a chaotic battle. Inside, the Baron still couldn't decide whether to leave or stay. Right here, the warriors and the people inside were all citizens of Moloch, so he couldn't run away. Instead, he wanted to ask some people here to take care of Ola and Rose, while he would fight too. The death to preserve hope for his two children. They both possessed the mark and couldn't be allowed to fall into enemy hands. To reassure them, he even promised that when he saw the battle was not going well, he would find a way to escape. The wooden gate was now broken. The enemy once again flooded in, searching for the bearers of the Guardian Mark. Immediately after, the whole group faced the wrath of the Baron. They sent a monkey that also possessed a divine crest to challenge him. From a distance, Ola still couldn't move. His curse seemed to be heavier than Rose's. Also a warrior, he wanted to fight with all his might. He ordered his two loyal subordinates to return to the castle, while he would take care of the rest himself. Now was the time to show the Central Plains their resilience. Inside the armory, Rose had also made up her mind. She took her most familiar spear. Seeing Lord Ola present, everyone felt their strength renewed. Everyone thought he had fully recovered, so they were very happy. With two outstanding individuals possessing divine crests, their village had a chance to repel the monster horde. The father realized his son hadn't fully recovered and ordered some people to assist him. Ola's opponent was also a monster with a mark. Just when he thought it was over, his younger sister appeared and blocked the blow for him. Rose activated her mark and pushed the opponent back. She said she would protect the village. After that last move, the girl's arm felt like it was shattering. However, her strong will was still there. She dropped her shield and directly rushed into a fierce fight. With her speed, Rose gained the upper hand. Thanks to that, she successfully cut down her first opponent with a guardian mark. Seeing this, Manso boosted the morale of his brothers. Following the lead of the young lady and Lord Ola, they pushed back the enemy. Just like that, the village began to gradually regain its advantage. The Baron also delivered a finishing blow when he saw his two children were okay. He also silently apologized for underestimating his daughter because she was a woman. The other monkey was not yet dead and said, even with a few more mark bearers, it wouldn't change anything. There were still many of its kind out there. However, at this moment, the entire group was surrounded by Kai alone, unable to advance into the village anymore. The onlookers still didn't understand what was happening. They could only hear the loud sounds of fighting outside. As soon as he saw the familiar figure, the Baron threw his weapon for the main character to use. He had been trained a lot before, so he was used to this kind of halberd. He single-handedly fought through the chaos, crushing the enemy forces. The monkey leader witnessed the divine crest on Kai's face, and knew who he was. His close brothers in the village couldn't believe their weak little brother could fight against hordes of monsters like that. It was as if he were a true bearer of the Guardian Mark. Kai had become the main force that changed the tide of the battle. The remnants inside the village were also dealt with. The monkeys were furious. A bearer of the Guardian Mark charged straight at the main character, only to have its head punched through in a single blow. The leader on the other side saw this and ordered a temporary retreat to preserve their forces. Their village had won an unbelievable victory. Inside, Ola also asked his confidant if he had fought well. She confirmed that he had done very well, which made the young man quite happy. Even so, he knew the one who saved their village was Kai, not him. The young man went inside, pretending to wipe his face like the others, to make them think he had also just painted the divine crest on to scare the monkeys. Rose praised him, saying that since he fought so well, he didn't need to use such tricks. The Baron then came over and asked about the monk. Kai bluntly stated that he had been killed. They had to face 3 monkeys with guardian marks, who were extremely strong. Baron Vejin couldn't believe it, as he knew Nada's skills were very good, enough to create a mark on his face. Without a god's blessing, Kai asserted that he had fought as tenaciously as any of them. It was a pity that, due to the critical situation, he couldn't be given a proper burial. Hearing that, the Baron said he would send people to find the body later. Elsa's younger sister also ran over and asked Kai if he had seen her older sister. Manso then announced that she had been taken by the inspector. Hearing that, without saying much, Kai immediately ran off to find her. The carriage had already traveled a great distance, but there was still a long way to go to reach the capital. Taking this opportunity, Gondo pushed Elsa down, planning to have some fun to relieve his boredom. However, in the next second, he sensed someone with unbelievable speed had caught up. With his divine crest, he detected Kai, as he was about to shoot him down with a bow and arrow. Elsa, inside, caused a commotion to stop him. The horses sensed the main character's anger and tried to struggle, causing the carriage to lose control. Thanks to that, Kai was able to reach his friend. However, the bastard Gando had stabbed the girl with a knife, leaving her life in danger. He took her outside and used healing to save her. Unfortunately, this method was not effective. As the cells in her body were dying, Gando, in pain, stood up and healed his wounds quickly. Knowing Kai was from the village, he immediately threatened him. He didn't care who lived or died. He even blamed him for scaring the horses away, which caused this to happen. Second, Gondo continuously used clever words to escape blame. Kai was furious with this guy. and immediately pinned him down. He said that those with the power of the gods will kill the weak. That's how this world works. And only nobles deserve to possess the divine crest. Someone like Kai would lose himself and cause even more deaths. Kai didn't care. He directly took action and ripped out the guy's godstone. The young man thought he could use it to make Elsa drink it, which might luckily save her life. The girl was gradually losing consciousness and apologized to the one she loved for not being able to be with him anymore. He promised to do everything to save her, and then the two of them could be together. Elsa obediently drank the godstone from the guardian mark-bearer. Unfortunately, it had no effect at all. On the contrary, it caused her more pain. Due to his lack of knowledge, the young man tried to take Elsa to the dwarves to find out the reason. Along the way, he didn't notice he was being followed by the monkeys. After Mr. Forex learned that Kai had given his friend the other guy's godstone, he understood the problem. This was not a wise move. Eating the godstone of someone from the same race would cause poisoning. They can only absorb it from monsters or other races. Worse, this girl was just an ordinary person. Improper absorption would lead to death. Kai asked for a way to save her, but his friend didn't know if there was enough time. First, they would make Elsa vomit the marrow she had swallowed and simultaneously brew an antidote. Hopefully, it would save her. Kai blamed himself for being too naive, and thus harming his friend. As he was wondering how to use this power, the three monkey leaders approached. He was angry at the sight of the enemy and immediately wanted to fight. However, the other party knelt down and greeted him, respectfully. The divine crest on Kai's face belonged to the great god Cain. They pleaded for the great god to come to their domain. This left the young man confused. Inside, thanks to the care, Elsa successfully vomited everything out. Although she was given the antidote, whether she would live or not depended on luck. They could only hope that she would pull through. Mr. Perrick also went outside to report the situation to the guardian god, only to see the monkeys kneeling and begging. Kai explained that they suddenly started doing that, and he didn't know why either. The leader then introduced himself as Taurus and hoped that the great god Cain would listen to his tribe's plea. The old man also urged them to speak quickly to avoid disturbing the main character. Taurus said their land had been polluted. That place is called Hezu, but recently, due to the appearance of an extremely powerful being, the entire land has been polluted and is now lifeless. There is no more food. That's why the monkey tribe had to find another land to survive. That god of pollution is also known by the name Diablo. After hearing this, the valley god inside the main character became extremely resentful and wanted him to destroy this being. Seeing the young man's strange reaction, the old man also became worried. Receiving a plea from the village's enemy, Kai couldn't agree. He told them not to be so demanding. "Do you know how many people you've killed in my village?" The monkey beside him couldn't control himself and shouted that many of his own people had also died. Master Taurus truly resented Kai, but because he was a god he could ask for help from. He swallowed his pain to kneel and make the request, only to be refused. He also threatened that if Kai did nothing, the war would continue. Furious, he also wanted to fight, saying if they dared to do that again, don't blame him. He would destroy them all to protect the village. The old monkey heard this, apologized, and pushed his disciple's head down. He was still resentful because, in reality, attacking this place was just a way to find survival for themselves. With no place to live, the entire tribe would die. Kai didn't give a damn and told them to get lost. The young man went inside to check on his friend and saw she was still not okay. Mr. Porak said he had done everything he could. The rest depended on her strong will to overcome it. Regarding the plea from earlier, the old man also gave the main character some advice. He argued that it was because of the monkey's attack that Elsa ended up like this, so he wouldn't do anything to help them. Boric continued. The dwarves had accidentally witnessed that plea. Although they don't like monsters, this is an ancient law. As a judging god, he cannot ignore that plea. It's true that this is very difficult to accept from his emotional standpoint, but standing up to help others is the true nature of a judging god. Although the two tribes call Kai by different names, the monkey tribe does indeed worship him. Once the balance of the world is broken, Kai has the responsibility to step in and adjust it. It sounded like he had to save this world. Mr. Porix bowed and said that Kai had received the protection of a god. The god he possesses is stronger than any earth god. Using that power to help the world is his destiny, so he cannot avoid it. Going outside, he saw the monkeys were still there. The young man was quite annoyed and walked away. He wondered if the power of the valley god was really that formidable, and if he didn't help the monkeys, they would continue to attack this land again. Losing his temper, Kai turned to scold his god. "Why did you give me the power to shoulder so many things?" As he was about to vent his anger on a flower, Arui stopped him. Seeing the girl, he calmed down and went back up. Mr. Porix was sitting and talking with the three monkeys, as they were fluent in the human language. Although it's quite complex and difficult to understand, with their intelligence, some individuals have learned it. Kai returned and said he was going back to the village, asking his friend to continue taking care of Elsa. As for the monkey tribe's plea, he said he was still considering it. The leader also asked the old man if the great god would go to Hezu to help. He replied that he was certainly not a coward, so there would be an answer soon. Later, upon returning to the village, everyone gathered around and asked about the situation. He pretended not to know where the bastard Gando went. Elsa couldn't be saved either, which made everyone sad. Kai said he wanted to discuss something with the Baron. He informed them that the monkeys might attack again. Everyone was furious. They believed the monkeys only wanted to kill. Regarding Kai's performance, Baron Vajin was full of praise. He placed high hopes on the young man for the future. He replied, "I will do everything in my power." Outside, Lalisa asked about her older sister, and Kai could only apologize. Lady Rose also came over to comfort her. The little sister cried a lot because Kai had promised to bring Elsa back but failed to do so. In every battle, of course, there will be sacrifices. This is unavoidable, and Kai has done very well. Then Rose advised him not to overthink it. The monkey's losses were also huge, as Feta collected piles of god stones. The young man thought they brought this upon themselves. This statement was agreed upon by Ola, but then he showed annoyance when Kai was the one who took care of all these monsters, yet he looked sad when he should have been proud. Ola was extremely bitter that he was cursed. Otherwise, he would have been the one to achieve the greatest feat. His younger sister heard that and didn't know what to say. He then used his weapon to stab the corpse a few times but was stopped. Kai was immediately pushed down and told that he could never surpass him, so he shouldn't get conceited. The main character also hated the monkeys, but not to such an unreasonable extent. Humans and demi-humans have been slaughtering each other for generations, yet Kai still wanted to do something to improve the situation. Being lectured, Ola was pretty bitter but couldn't do anything about it. The young man went in to see the Baron, asking to investigate the monkeys for a few days. The Baron was quite worried because Kai had just returned and was already asking to leave again, knowing he seemed to be hiding something, but he respected that, figuring there must be a personal reason for it. Before letting him go, the Baron reminded him of a few things the strong should be aware of. Kai had demonstrated power nearly equal to that of a guardian seal-bearer. If you encounter a wall you can't overcome, use all your strength to break it. Even when facing the fangs of a ferocious beast, don't run. Grab those fangs and rip them apart to continue moving forward. Your strength is a gift from the gods, so believe in yourself. Remembering this, Kai thanked him and left the village. Manso and Jose had prepared weapons for his protection. They told him not to hesitate to run back if he was in danger. The young lady wanted him to treat her dagger as a charm, for good luck. Although it's passed down within the Moloch clan, she advised the young man to use it as if it were his own. Standing from a distance and looking back at the village, Kai wondered if he would be able to return after this. He resolved to go and destroy the god of corruption to end the war. Meanwhile, a few dwarves arrived to bury Gando so no one would find out. It would be a huge problem if humans followed the tracks to the valley where they lived. On the other side, the monkeys received the good news that Kai had agreed to help. He made a request for while he was gone. They were forbidden from attacking humans. Hearing this, the monkeys swore an oath, so he was reassured. The fur on the other one's head looked very familiar to him, but he couldn't remember why he felt that way. Before leaving, Mr. Forex gave Kai a set of clothes. There was a deep-seated feud between humans and the monkey tribe. Walking around dressed as he was would cause trouble, but wearing the warrior attire of the dwarf tribe was a different story. Arugi explained this was an outfit for the greatest warrior of his tribe, complimenting the main character on how well it suited him. He went to say goodbye to Elsa, hoping she'd wake up soon because her sister was very worried. Outside, some people gave him the axe they had gotten from the previous battle with the boars. The old man thought it would be useful in the fight against the god of corruption, and so, they followed the three monkeys to Hezu. At a glance, it was all dark and gloomy. Outside the forest, there were still some signs of life, but the deeper they went, the more corpses they saw. The fallen warriors were buried with young sprouts planted on their graves. The graves of those they had killed were likely here as well. There were also many corpses killed by Diablo. Although he'd never met him, Mr. Corex had heard legends about this being. The previous god of judgment was the one who defeated Diablo. The story of the main character's predecessor became a legend among the tribes, which is why the monkey tribe worships and seeks help from him. Perhaps Diablo's return like this is a sign of a great change coming to this world. The corruption has made the land and water sources unusable. Diablo has been cursed. He takes power from many gods, from the earth, and consumes their blessings. Kai was brought to meet the village elder, who thanked him for coming and apologized for his appearance. Meeting the monkey tribe's leader, Kai was quite curious. The leader said who he was wasn't important. First, he wanted to tell him about Diablo's origin. The creature was summoned by the darkness within their monkey tribe. It seemed the king of the monkey tribe had lost his mind, indulging only in drinking and hedonistic pleasures. His retainers were lazy, only knowing how to plunder the commoner's property. They ignored the suffering of their people. The monkey tribe was rotten to the core. The unified kingdom was declining year by year. It seems the situation for humans and the monkeys wasn't much different. The upper class was corrupt, dragging the entire nation into an unsalvageable abyss. The power struggle was the cause of all these events. It was known that one of the Monkey King's sons was defeated in the struggle for power. He was forced to leave and find a new land for himself in the north, far away. His name was Xander. Despite having royal blood, he did not possess a god within the kingdom. His power came from elsewhere, making him very vulnerable to attack. Upon setting foot in the new land, Xander used every trick in the book to claim the land for himself, which resulted in him making countless enemies. The northern tribes despised him. As a result, after they found the source of his power, they placed countless curses upon his god. But miraculously, he didn't weaken at all. On the contrary, he grew stronger and evolved. After returning to the kingdom, Xander devoured the previous king along with his brothers. He is currently still in the palace. At this point, The elder slowly crawled outside. He cried that as long as Diablo exists, the land in the region will continue to wither. The protection from the gods would also grow weaker. At this rate, all the gods will abandon the monkey tribe, reverting them to mindless beasts. He tried to beg the great god Kyan, "Please, save them." The old man didn't seem to have much longer to live, but he was very worried for his tribe. The valley god in Kai's head was agitated, wanting him to destroy Diablo immediately. The young man agreed, saying he would kill the creature and restore peace to this place. And so, they advanced toward the royal district where Diablo had devoured the king. The deeper they went, the more polluted the air became. His followers seemed annoyed, not understanding why the great god would agree to clean up this mess for the monkeys. This comment displeased the monkeys. Kai said the guy wasn't wrong, but he still had to do what must be done. Looking at the castle from afar, it seemed quite peaceful. But as they approached, royal soldiers suddenly blocked anyone from entering. The two sides then communicated in a way the main character couldn't understand. When he asked, it was explained that one of the groups that once served the king had returned. They demanded that everyone leave so they could destroy Diablo with their own hands. Hearing this, Kai was exasperated. At such a critical moment, they were having internal disputes. He didn't care if they were royalty. He wanted to go inside and see for himself. But even when introduced as the great god Kyan, the guard wouldn't let him in. He believed that Lady Xena would be victorious. However, a roar from the enemy erupted from within. Ignoring the monkeys blocking his path, Kai tossed one aside and ran straight inside. The voice in his head kept demanding he eliminate the evil. As he got closer, Kai saw corpses being drained of their life force. The nutrients were transferred directly to the god of corruption, which was in the form of a giant salamander. The smell it gave off was worse than crap. It made Kai want to bail immediately, but since he'd come this far, he had to fight. The opponent then turned around and gave a gruesome smile, as if welcoming Kai to the land of the dead. He had to admit Mr. Forex was right. This creature shouldn't exist. As he was about to join the battle, a royal warrior from the monkey tribe appeared. Though a woman, she had the support and trust of many. Jaina was the youngest member of the royal family. She also had a distinct appearance, looking more human-like. Her ability was to control a sacred beast, a massive white wolf. Doof wasn't just a wolf but also a powerful god who protected the north. What was confusing was why a guardian god from there was present here. According to Mr. Pock, he could sense that she had used a magical item to control the sacred beast. Just like that, the wolf obeyed the command and spat fire to incinerate the plague god. Initially, the poisonous salamander screamed in pain. Unfortunately, the flames had no effect whatsoever. Diablo's body was resistant to fire, even divine fire. Seeing this, Jaina commanded the wolf to charge and bite, but this time, it refused to obey. Other monkeys had to run over and stuff some grass in its mouth. This made the animal get high and start drooling. The main character asked what they were doing and learned that controlling it must be very difficult, so they had to use a sedative to make the animal obey, but too much would lead to fatal poisoning. After taking a bite of the poisonous salamander's flesh, the wolf collapsed, unable to move. That move was basically a suicide attack. The plague god's body was pure poison, so touching it meant instant death. Furthermore, the bitten-off piece of flesh started moving on its own, attacking those nearby. Their comrades had been killed this way before, despite their best efforts. While Diablo was distracted, Kai rushed in, but he didn't attack right away. He kicked away the moving piece of flesh. He announced he was here as the god of judgment. Touching the poor wolf, he realized it still had a pulse. However, the spiritual energy in the beast's chest was very weak. It needed a boost of life force to have any chance of survival. The poison continued to spread, so the god within the wolf was likely being neutralized. With its defenses gone, Kai suddenly remembered using an electric shock to the heart for resuscitation. But then, Elsa's voice echoed, and Gando's haunting words began to distract him. If power isn't used correctly, it will kill others. As his hand trembled, his friends snapped him out of it. They were trying their best to hold Diablo off from the great god, even though they didn't know what Kai intended to do. But you have to hurry before we all get killed. No longer hesitating, the main character touched the wolf's memories. It seemed that to tame it, Xena had killed its previous master. This world operated on the principle of the strong devouring the weak. She wanted to change this rotten world. But first, she had to become stronger. After touching the wolf's godstone, Kai yelled, awakening the god within, threatening to devour it if it didn't wake up. A moment later, a miracle occurred as the poison lost its effect. The dwarves witnessed this spectacle and were extremely excited. Diablo seemed to sense this and became furious. Mr. Pocky saw that fighting like this wouldn't accomplish anything, since this was Kai's first encounter. He didn't yet know how to deal with the plague god. The voice in his head guided him. Pierce through and attack the throne. The valley god meant for him to destroy the godstone inside the salamander. The only problem was, he had no idea where it was. He couldn't even get close right now, so how was he supposed to fight? Looking down from above, Gina wondered, "Do you hate this world that much, Xander?" It turned out that in the past, she and Diablo's current host had lost a battle against the other members. The weak could only grovel on the ground. With no other choice, they left to find a new land where they wouldn't be looked down upon. Then one day, Jaina acquired her own guardian god, and became much stronger. So, she would destroy him to change this rotten world. Seeing Doof lying there, waiting to recover. She jumped down, demanding it stand up and fight to live up to its title as the guardian god of the north. Kai saw this and stepped in to stop her, as the wolf's wounds hadn't yet healed. Xena didn't care. She claimed it was her subordinate, and she could use it as she pleased. This remark displeased Kai, because she, too, saw it as a mere object to be used and then discarded, just like the other royals. Hearing this, his opponent said he knew nothing. Based on his fighting style, she realized he came from a lowly peasant background. She thought he had stolen the great god's power. From the look in his eyes, Xena guessed he had also fought desperately to resist the way this world worked. They were both fighting to survive, so they weren't so different. Just as they were about to argue further, the wolf made a full recovery. It stood up to protect Kai, activating its guardian seal and successfully neutralizing the poison. Looking toward its controller, Doof broke the weapon controlling it and turned to obey the main character's command. Only by being free did it have the strength to resist the god of corruption. Even though Diablo was torn into many pieces, the pieces of flesh automatically returned to its body to regenerate. The salamander flew into a rage, emitting a terrifying amount of poison that covered the entire sky, so much so that even the people working in the village could see the pollution. Everyone feared for the safety of their land. Diablo's body then grew larger once again, causing everything to collapse. If left unchecked, it would devour everything. But Duff was also neutralized by tentacles. Xena was about to rush in to free it but became the target herself. Fortunately, Kai pushed her aside. However, the sword Jose had given him was dropped, putting him in danger. After Kai was swallowed by the monster, everyone lost their will to fight. Mr. Porrex was stopped from getting closer, as doing so would get him absorbed too. Since no one had ever escaped after being swallowed, the monkeys felt this was the end for their tribe. Xena felt bitter that the kid had saved her, only to be eaten himself. Diablo turned to target her, but was intercepted by Duff, holding it tight. Finding the wolf to be a nuisance, the evil god used its tentacles to strangle it. Inside the monster, Kai was still safe but couldn't move. Diablo's flesh smelled exactly like the core of a godstone. His body was also being drained of its life force. Just when he thought this was the end, the valley god woke him. Kai was brought into his consciousness but felt too exhausted to even stand up. He asked for advice on how to escape. The valley god told him to master himself and transcend. He wondered why the god had chosen to grant him power, just as Jaina had said. He shouldn't have become the god of judgment. The responsibility was too great for someone as useless as him. The valley god didn't say much, only demanding that Kai keep fighting. Stand up and rise, let your life burn brightly. Transcend death and show everyone your brilliance. The ground was becoming corrupted, the world was shifting. Images of the people he cherished, being gradually devoured, awakened him. Indeed, if things went on like this, everyone living nearby would suffer a terrible fate. Outside, the villagers were gathering, preparing to face an impending disaster. Arugi went to the godstone slab, praying for Kai to regain his will to fight. The young man tried to focus. He thought of a way to avoid having more life force drained. The monster's flesh was like a godstone, its structure encased in a shell. Kai then recalled a memory from his past life about calcification. Instantly, he created a shell to encase his body. This way, he was no longer affected by the curse within the core. The valley god called Kai a warrior and gave him his full support. Outside, the monster thrashed about wildly. The onlookers had no idea what was happening. Diablo screamed in agony, and a moment later, its flesh was pierced through. Kai was back, and more powerful than ever. He let out a tremendous roar as if celebrating his victory. Seeing Kai's outer armor, no one knew what it was. Back in the valley, Arui happened to discover that a new god had appeared within Kai's flower. The battle between the two powerful beings was only just beginning. The plague god seemed to sense the danger, so it kept its distance. The main character drew his sword, charged in, and pierced its body, causing Diablo great pain. Its flesh was inherently poisonous. However, it was neutralized by the supreme power of the valley god. Kai declared, "I am no longer who I was yesterday. Now, these hands will be used to protect everyone." As the god of judgment, Kai delivered a death sentence to Diablo. Dufen submitted to the main character, leaving Jaina in shock, because he truly was the great god Kayan. That explained it. The two coordinated to hunt down the monster. The valley god reminded him to attack the throne. Kai told the wolf that there was a godstone somewhere inside its body, but the plague god was too big, so he needed his wolf friend to do something. Understanding this, Def charged in and held the opponent down, creating an opportunity. The main character leaped down, intending to tear Diablo's body to pieces until he found the godstone. The monster was sliced in two but was still alive. The head section sprouted legs and tried to flee. Meanwhile, the body tried to absorb more people to regenerate. It seemed the two halves were trying to reunite. So, the warriors stepped forward to block it. Kai then asked Xena for help, much to the astonishment of her followers. Though she didn't like it one bit, she complied, ordering all her soldiers to block it with their shields. The head. Kai jumped onto it, stabbing deep into its body to feel for the stone, but it was nowhere to be found. The young man activated a wind blade, causing the creature's body to explode into pieces, but a single piece inside transformed into another shape, and the battle continued. This was Diablo's true form. It nimbly dodged attacks while controlling the surrounding flesh to absorb living people, replenishing its energy. Just as Kai charged in again, Jaina delivered a fatal stab from above. However, her strength was limited. She told Kai to hurry up and do something. Hearing that, the young man tried to find the godstone, but it was a feint. The monster's true body appeared behind them, only to be cut down by the combined attack of Jaina and Kai. Thanks to that, he managed to pull out its godstone and slice it in two, but then, another body emerged from within. Fortunately, that was the end of it. The clear blue sky returned, signaling the plague god's disappearance. The sight was so miraculous that it left everyone stunned in awe. Xander had somehow survived being absorbed. He knew he had been controlled by Diablo, so he couldn't say a word. Xena said his sins were great. With that, everything was over. The rest would be handled by the monkey tribe. The main character had used too much energy and passed out. He woke up a day later beside the elder. It seemed that as soon as Diablo died, the power of the earth gods returned to the land. Everyone knew of the great deed of the great god Kayan and was celebrating. The village chief, having recovered his strength, was also a bit healthier. When Kai went outside, he saw the monkey tribe joyfully welcoming him with both tears and laughter. Since the land was only just beginning to recover, all they could do to repay Kai was offer him piles of fruit. He ate to regain his strength while also establishing a good relationship with the monkey tribe. His group then started their journey back to their own land. Along the way, they saw Jaina waiting to say farewell. Though she wouldn't admit it, he had in fact killed Diablo, so she wanted to thank him as their queen. It turned out Jaina had recently received a blessing from the royal god. Kai thought the elders group wouldn't acknowledge her. She obviously knew this but still declared she would make them all accept her. When she asked for Kai's wish in repayment, he requested Doof's freedom. Hearing this, she happily agreed. In fact, to receive her current blessing, she had to renounce her previous one, the wolf. The white wolf was now free and returning to the north. Because Kai had now formed an alliance with the elder, it was highly likely that their two sides would have to fight on the battlefield again. He didn't want to face her, but they still exchanged a warm farewell. Soon after, the young man returned to the village, much to Joe's relief. The young lady also asked about the situation, and he said everything was resolved. No more monkeys would want to attack their village. Rose found this a bit hard to believe but trusted Kai. He said he had chased the monkeys deep into the forest for many days, so they wouldn't dare show their faces here again, especially with winter approaching, so they wouldn't be foolish enough to start a fight. Kai returned the weapon to his friend, thanking her for everything. Thanks to it, he was able to win. After hearing his story, Rose felt the main character had changed a lot. He seemed to have matured. She was holding his hand when the main character's friend suddenly walked up, so she quickly ran off in embarrassment. Manso also scolded him for not reporting back upon his return and instead hanging out with a girl. From above, the Baron also noticed that Kai seemed to have changed. Ola then arrived to report on an important matter. It was true the monkeys would stop their attacks, but Inspector Gando's disappearance would cast suspicion on their village. The central government would have an excuse to make trouble, so they had to prepare to deal with it soon. Lord Vajan was considering asking the local count to intervene. For the time being, peace had returned to the land. That afternoon, Kai visited Elsa and saw Arui taking diligent care of her. Although she hadn't woken up yet, her life force was strong. She would likely recover soon. This valley will become a new nation. Kai had previously promised to take Elsa to a special place, and this was their destination. As he lowered his head, the main character suddenly heard Elsa speak. Arui also confirmed that he would be able to do those things now that he had defeated Diablo. He had become a new god. It was only natural that he would create a nation right here. That night, after learning a new god was here, the beast tribe came to establish relations. A girl introduced herself as Niran. She asked Kai